Hello YouTube and welcome to the season finale, episode 4 of the 9th season of Tomorrow's Talk Today. I'm your host, Nicholas Hamlet from Com 445, Digital Storytelling, and today I am joined by my classmates and fellow panelists, Alexis High, Braden Hamilton, Conifer Sellington, and Caden Flessner. On today's episode, we'll be discussing Nickelodeon versus Disney Channel, the controversies, the effects of growing up with the content, and the decline in ratings. Our guests today have watched and analyzed a plethora of videos and written work on the topic, including YouTube breakdowns, scholarly articles, and interviews. To begin our discussion, let's take a quick look at a clip from the Quiet on Set documentary.
In the early 90s, Nickelodeon was kid everything. And you better hope that your house had cable.
Wasn't there to educate you. We were there to have fun, to get slimed, to be entertained.
And this is when Dan Schneider arrives, Nickelodeon's golden boy. He created these shows that were hugely successful for them.
No one had ever really done sketch comedy starring kids for kids.
He launched the careers of child actors who became major stars.
For 20 years, he shaped children's entertainment and culture.
Thank you for being here.
But that marked one of the darkest chapters. Working for Dan was like being in an abusive relationship.
Dan's treatment of people on his shows was an open secret.
So my lawyer filed complaints, gender discrimination, hostile work environment, harassment, and it was so devastating.
How safe can any kids be in that environment? There would be even bigger problems down the line with actual pedophiles on set.
As you can see, Nickelodeon has been shrouded in controversies in the past 2 decades, and it has impacted stars and viewers alike. Caden, what are some of the impacts of this Quiet on Set documentary?
Most of these impacts were based off of, because Dan Schneider, he was like the producer of mainly all Nickelodeon shows, because he was based off of like child abuse, because so many accounts with Brian Peck. I know some examples of him being involved in it was the cast of all of that. We have Drake Bell with Brian Peck. We have the Amanda Bynes show, because Amanda Bynes was the main person that was involved with Dan Schneider because of the abuse, because I know from the documentary they talk about her with her, because she was mainly part of the abuse. And we have Drake Bell with Brian Peck, as Brian Peck was like, went to jail because of the child abuse from Drake Bell, and that like ruined his career. We have Victoria Justice, Ariana Grande that was involved, because Dan Schneider made Janet McCarty feel bad, and her mental life got affected by that. Because if you know her book, I'm Glad My Mom Died, that was based off of Dan Schneider affecting her mental health. So this documentary really affected people's perspective on Nickelodeon.
Yes. And I know like that all that stuff coming out definitely has an impact on people's perception of how TV shows and reality TV especially kind of worked back then. So my question for you, Alexis, do you think the controversies in Dan Schneider had an impact on readership, ratings, and viewers?
I wouldn't necessarily say that the Quiet on Set documentary had an impact on the viewership and ratings, because I mean, we didn't know about that until 2024 when the documentary came out. So I would say that the ratings and viewership was mainly dependent on what kind of cartoons and shows they produced at the time, like over the years. So when I did my research, I saw that in 2010 and 2011, Nickelodeon had a peak. They had a high of over 3 million viewers. And that was due in part to the shows that they produced before then, back in the 90s, such as Rugrats, Hey Arnold, and all that. Now, after that time period, like till 2016, 2017, you could see that there was a slow decline in viewership by that time. I mean, 2016, 2017, they only had like a high of like a little bit over 1 million viewers. And that's due in part to the kind of shows that they had during that time. They had the Fairly Odd Parents, they had Henry Danger come out, shows like that people just weren't really rocking with. They didn't like the storyline, they didn't like the characters as much as the shows back in the 90s. So I would say that would be a reason why the viewership went down, but also that I noticed was that when SpongeBob premiered, that also brought the ratings down in viewers as well. I mean, don't get me wrong, SpongeBob is one of the most successful cartoons there is on Nickelodeon. But because of that, you know, that show got overplayed on Nickelodeon. It was said to be on the airway about 60% of the time. So like they would have episodes back to back to back. And people just got tired of seeing it back to back to back and having it be aired that many times. So, and that also took away like the opportunity for other Nickelodeon shows to be successful in that way as SpongeBob was. So I would say that led to the decrease in viewership as well.
Yes, and you talked about the overuse of the certain shows, and also find it very interesting that after all this came out, even in 2020, we all know that was COVID year, the ratings couldn't even recover then when people were at home. So with all this controversy and all the bad decision making that was going on, Conifer, do you think that the controversies like Zoe 1-on-1 or Drake and Josh impacted the people's perception of the network?
Yeah, I would say that it did impact the perceptions of the network because Drake and Josh and Zoe 101 came out around the time that Alexis had pointed out previously, around that time between 2010, 2011 at their peak to 2016, 2017 when their ratings were already at like way lower. And those shows also had controversy surrounding them. Like Drake and Josh had a sexual abuse all throughout, like not only the members of the cast but also crew members. And then in Zoe 101, one of the co-stars got pregnant, and teen pregnancy at that time wasn't well talked about and well perceived by parents. And I think all of that together kind of amalgamated parents to kind of draw their kids away from that, alongside with like kids kind of growing apart from the program.
And you know, kind of what we've been discussing, we've been talking about how we perceive things and how we reacted, but some people really never stopped to think about the stars and what happened to the cast and how they went through things and experienced these things. So Braden, do you think that the Quiet on Set controversy impacted the stars of this network?
It definitely did, because I remember when this it first came out, obviously a lot of it was surrounded with Dan Schneider. And Dan Schneider was a big name to kind of come up multiple times when the #MeToo movement started. And I feel like once like 1 star or 2 stars started coming out about Dan Schneider, it kind of made a lot of other stars more comfortable to come out about their own personal like traumas and horror stories and all the horrible things that happened to them. So it kind of was more like a comfort thing for these other stars, because it was like, oh, these people are coming out about their stories. They're not being judged like I thought maybe they would be. So I think I might be more comfortable to come out with my story because it kind of highlights everything, and it's all ultimately just a way to try to make sure these horrible things don't happen again.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with you on that part. And thank you all for bringing up some very good points about the Nickelodeon's controversy and their impact on viewership. Let's take a quick break, and we will be back to talk about Disney Channel.
The motto of the department for years has been, we make the world through words.
All the professors are very supportive. I know that I can go with them with any questions about anything.
They're amazing, and they're genius, and you would be amazed at the things that they've done, and the places they've been, and the things that they know.
You gain really neat skills that can take you in a whole range of directions, and it really allows you to have a wide array of possibilities when you leave Longwood. Teachers are very creative in how they teach, and we try to teach creative approaches to problem solving. So in our writing classes, often you will do things like build Legos and then have to describe how you did it so that you learn how to write instructions that other people can read. We talk about great ideas, and so classes are just really fun to sit around and talk about the meaning of life and talk about what's super important in the world today.
There is a level of being able to sit down and just listen that is required to be able to do that work well. And with that, listening means being sensitive to people's backgrounds. We make the world through words, through those sensitivities, and coming together as an English community.
You learn how to put your best effort into something to get the best back from it. I started out wanting to write books, and now I'm working with the athletics department, working with ESPN.
I had dropped out for financial reasons, and while I was sitting at home just working, trying to make some money, I got an email from an English professor, Dr. Hetty. It was a deeply personal moment, but it really did feel like the English department cared about me and about the students.
Welcome back. Next, we are going to be focusing on Disney Channel controversies and how it impacted network views and perceptions of the channel. Here, we have a clip from the top 10 Disney Channel controversies.
That's right, Miley makes not one, but 2 appearances on our list today. Usually, we try to keep it to 1 entry per celeb, but when it comes to Disney Channel alumni, there's arguably never been a bigger star than Miley, or one that's generated more controversy.
Now can we get back to the person with the real problem?
In 2010, 2 years after the Vanity Fair drama, a video surfaced of the young star taking a hit from a bong.
So, you're a mess. Let's start from there.
It was allegedly shot during Cyrus's 18th birthday, and according to Miley, wasn't marijuana like most people assumed, but rather salvia, which was technically legal in California at the time.
Just saying. Rule follower, rule breaker.
Regardless, Cyrus was still playing the role of Hannah Montana then, and soon publicly admitted that it was a mistake. The video allegedly cost her a Walmart deal.
Wow, all of this happening behind the scenes is absolutely wild. The actors and viewers alike taking all of this in must have been impacted greatly. Conifer, can you tell me about some of the controversies that stood out the most to you?
Yeah, I think there's one in particular that just kind of rings a bell because I know I grew up on YouTube more than I did these shows, and that was Jake Paul being taken off of Bizarre because of his YouTube content and series. Anyone who's seen Jake Paul, seen a video, seen a clip on YouTube, knows that he can do some extreme things, and I didn't even know that he was a member on Bizarre but he was one of the co-stars at the time. And I think it's crazy that he was doing all of this stuff so badly, or I guess so extreme, that Nickelodeon's we can't associate with you anymore. And so they took him off of Bizarre which is the show that he was on.
Wow. And on top of these controversies, such as the one you just spoke about, you have unfortunate passings of certain stars. Mm-hmm. So, Caden, do you think that deaths of Cameron Boyce and other stars kind of impacted the network as well?
Yeah, some of them did, because I know Cameron Boyce probably did, because when he died, they tried to make it, they try and keep it calm so they don't make it a big deal, but I know Descendants, they stopped production after the 3rd movie, I think, because of his death, and they didn't want to continue without him, because the cast of Descendants was, his friend, and I know he was a big impact on all the shows he played in. And it impacted all of Disney, because when they saw the news, they took time before they wanted to speak about it. And the other stars, they did the same thing. Because Kim Boyce was one of the most impactful, I think.
Yes, I agree. I still remember the when the news broke about Cameron Boyce, and I was a big fan of the show. I believe that it was Jesse that he was on, and seeing things like that, and as a kid, you're growing up and you're seeing someone your age in that stature, that lifestyle that passes away, that you kind of envision yourself in. It kind of definitely has a toll on the mentality that you perceive these things with. But Braden, what do you think led into the decline in the ratings for the Disney Channel?
Honestly, I think it was really just Disney XD, because when Disney XD first came out, obviously they had a couple shows like Zeke and Luther kicking it, some good ones like that. But the ultimate thing about with Disney XD is Disney got so popular so fast, like the original Disney Channel. So when they first came out with Disney Channel, views went up, shows were good, everybody was loving it, they couldn't get enough. So then they're just oh, let's maybe make some other channels. So they thought, let's make Disney XD kind of cater towards maybe more like teenage boys, kind of more towards that group of people. And they started to put shows on that were on Disney Channel onto Disney XD to try to hopefully get their numbers up, their ratings up. But it ultimately kind of led to a decline instead of an incline, because like shows like Phineas and Ferb, they were originally on Disney Channel, and then they were just like, oh, Phineas and Ferb is one of our best shows, let's put it on Disney XD, try to get our Disney XD numbers up. But it didn't end up really doing much, so they were constantly fluctuating what was on what channel, and it eventually kind of just plummeted.
Yeah, and to kind of speak to that rapid growth that you're talking about, you spoke of Phineas and Ferb. Personally, I love Phineas and Ferb. You know, there's 104 days. You know, I'm not gonna do it. But I love Phineas and Ferb. And to speak about that growth, Phineas and Ferb really only had 4 seasons. But in those 4 seasons, they had 222 episodes. So that kind of speaks to how rapid that these shows were kind of firing and having to replace themselves with new hit shows. But Alexis, do you think the decline in viewership for both networks has something to do with the shift in the viewer consumption and habits?
For sure. I know it definitely affected cable networks because for Disney, they had Disney Junior, Disney XD, and Disney Channel, right? So once streaming services came about, like Disney Plus, all of those channels went to that one streaming service, which ultimately declined the viewership on cable, but it increased its significance on the streaming service of Disney Plus because this streaming service it gave people easy access to access these shows, movies, wherever they wanted, either on the go, at home, wherever they wanted to view them. So I would say for that purpose.
Absolutely. Thank you all. And I think we can all agree that there's a lot to consider here. Don't tune out just yet. We'll be right back to discuss the steep decline of both networks' ratings with each other and our guests here on Tomorrow's Talk Today.
Do you need B-roll for that next comm class project? If so, we've got that B-roll. Are you not Ryan Fletcher and you haven't attended every event? We've got that B-roll. Are you not Cole Pello and haven't taken photos of every event? We've got that B-roll. Do you need shots of students eating pizza or getting their Starbucks? What about some building signs? We've got that B-roll. Do you need shots of students pressing buttons? What about doing the other things that look techie? We've got that B-roll. Do you need shots of fall on campus or students making random mugs? We've got that B-roll. Do you need a shot of Taylor Reilly IV being inaugurated as the president of Log One? No! That's not B-roll. That's too specific. Do you need random B-roll shots with the tripod left in the background? What you don't like about the tripod in the background? I just left it there and it was great. Next time you have a comm class project, remember, we've got that B-roll for the low price of $19.99. You can have access to all our library of B-roll. Call 434-395-2384 today before they sell out.
Thanks for sticking with us with both sides having various controversies, but there has also been a steep decline in ratings for both networks. Let's take a look at graphics showing the decline of viewership in the last 10 years from Statistica. Throughout the 2000s to the 2010s, there was a steady decline in both Nickelodeon and Disney Channel ratings. Both networks lost a significant amount of viewers. After analyzing that graph right there, as you can see, there's a huge decline in both networks. So Braden, what do you think caused this decline in viewership?
Honestly, I think it was probably YouTube in a combination with other like social media platforms and kind of just general short form content, because I feel like as we move on, like especially with kids our age and maybe a little bit younger, attention spans are just going down and down and down, and I'm honestly the same, unfortunately. But I feel like with YouTube, you think about the variety of videos. You can watch literally anything on YouTube, and same goes for TikTok and Instagram Reels and everything like that. So I think that those platforms really kind of lead to the decrease because, like I said, the variety, you can you can do literally anything on any of those. And honestly, especially for myself, but I know it's the same for a lot of other people, even as you're watching TV shows, you probably end up going on your phone, like maybe your friend sent you something on Instagram, you look at that video, and then you just keep swiping without even thinking about it, or you're like, oh, I wonder what's going on TikTok, I wonder what's going on Twitter. So it's kind of just a constant like attention span thing in my opinion, and I don't really see it ever kind of reverting.
And as we're seeing this decline, a lot of people may want to jump to the extreme here, and some people might even call this the death of Disney Channel or the death of Nickelodeon. Do you think that's an accurate statement, Alexis?
Well, yeah, pretty much. I mean, like the saying says, like, all good things must come to an end. And I think that's mainly based off of lack of interest. Like, me personally, I would watch Nickelodeon and Disney. So when I saw a show on Nickelodeon that I didn't like, I would switch to Disney. If I saw a show on Disney that I didn't like, I would switch to Nickelodeon, right? So, you know, it was bound to happen at some point because all good things must come to an end.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with you there. I, for one, love watching both networks. I kind of started off on Nickelodeon, but that kind of faded away kind of fairly fast. And then I switched over to Disney because that kind of catered to more as they were growing up. And a lot of people forget that as you're growing up, that content shifts for the people. And like you're seeing the cast of the shows grow up as well, and they're leaving. So you kind of just go with those stars and follow those stars. So Conifer, on the Disney Channel side, do you think stars like Miley Cyrus completely separating themselves from the network impacted viewership?
Yeah, I think 100%. It's exactly what you said. Stars grow up, and so we also grow up, and we kind of follow in their footsteps. So when Miley Cyrus left, it kind of left, like, we had all grown up at that point. We'd watched her go throughout her career at Disney, I believe Disney. And as we grew up, we kind of grew up with her. So when she went more into music, or she went into her own things, we also kind of followed foot with that. And you would think, okay, well, what about the younger generations, the kids that are still watching Disney or Nickelodeon? It's similar to what Braden said, is that we're all transitioning to shorter form content. We're transitioning to YouTube, where we can get things on demand and don't have to wait a week for a new episode. We're going to TikTok, where, you know, videos don't have like a 20-minute wait time to get to the climax of the episode. And I think that's all really impacted how Disney and Nickelodeon declined.
Yeah. And speaking of Miley Cyrus, truly, I kind of admire what she was able to do, because a lot of these networks try to control their stars, every move and everything they did. But Miley Cyrus, fortunately, had that fan base that she was able to kind of stand on her own, and she didn't need that network. And I kind of feel like that provided a space for other stars to kind of do that the same, like Demi Lovato, Selena Gomez, stuff like that. But Caden, the Quiet on Set documentary came out last year, but the decline has been steady previously to the documentary. So what do you think caused the Nickelodeon's decline in viewership?
I think it declined mainly because of Dan Snyder and Brian Peck, because like they're like one of the main producers on the show. Like when you were kids, when you watch it, you usually produced by Dan Snyder, like iCarly. You'll see that pop up, Victorious. Now, if you don't see the guy's name, you probably will be able to watch it again. It all depends who else is booking that you don't know. Because I know Dan Snyder and Brian Peck was impacted. Because Drake and Josh was like one of the popular ones I know. And when with Drake Bell was there and Brian Peck, I think that declined a little bit due to how it was all attracted by those two guys' names. Now when you watch the shows now, you don't realize he was in there or what parts it was and you wanted.
Wow. I think we all had a lot of important topics and important points that we had to discuss here, and I wish we can go on, but I'd like to thank you all for joining me. This has been quite the discussion, but that's all the time we have today. I'd like to thank the panelists for their opinions and everyone behind the scenes for making this program possible. Be sure to subscribe to the Longwood Comm Studies on YouTube to get notifications when the next episode is streaming. I'm your host, Nick, and I'll see you next year. Thank you for watching Tomorrow's Talk Today.
How can anybody win? 8 points later, I thought it was about time we hit the finish line. 8 points later, I wasn't winning at all, I was just further behind. You played your hand, but showed my